Today we will talk about the electrolysis, where the meaning of electrolysis, a process or a technique that involved breaking down or splitting ionic compound by using electricity. What's meant by ionic compound? The type of compound that produced due to electrostatic attraction between positive ions and negative ions. But in fact, solid ionic compounds can conduct electricity because the ions are locked in a place and not free to move due to the strong electrostatic attraction between them. Okay? But when the ionic compounds are melted or dissolved in water, the forces of attraction are broken and the ions become free to move. Okay? What are the types of conductors used during electrolysis? We have two types, electronic conductors and electrolytes. Where the electronic conductors, okay, they conduct electricity through the motion of electrons, like graphite or metals that used to make electrodes in electric circuit used during electrolysis. The second type, electrolytes. Electrolytes formed from a liquid or solution containing an ionic compound, where the molten form of ionic compound or dissolved form of ionic compound, where they conduct electricity through or depending on the motion of ions. Okay? In this lesson, we will explain the two cases of electrolysis: electrolysis of molten ionic compound and electrolysis of aqueous ionic compound formed by dissolving ionic salt in water. But the melting point of ionic compounds is very high, so we added impurities to decrease the melting point. That's help in saving energy and decreasing the cost of electrolysis. We have two cases. Soluble salt in water as copper sulfate, so it will form an aqueous solution of copper sulfate to form electrolytes, or insoluble salt in water as lead bromide, and in this case it will be melted so the salt can be changed into molten liquid. Okay? What we need to do the electrolysis? We need a beaker that containing electrolytes, whatever the electrolytes, the molten ionic salt or dissolving or aqueous solution of ionic salt. Okay? And inside electrolysis we put two types of electrodes, positive electrode and the negative electrode. Okay? Where the negative electrode, known as cathode, and it's made up of metals or graphite that joined with the negative pole of the battery. So the cathode is covered with electrons, and during electrolysis the function of cathode attraction or attracting positive ions resulted from the molten salt. Okay? While the positive electrode, known as anode, it's a rod that joined to the positive pole of battery, and its function attracting negative ions of the molten salt. Okay? What are the properties of electrodes used during electrolysis? Okay? Number one, the electrodes must be good conductors of electricity, having high melting point, and they are cheap. Okay? But we don't use gold or platinum in making electrodes because they are very expensive metal. Okay? Let's start the first example, how to use electricity by using molten sodium chloride. Electrolysis of molten sodium chloride, we bring the beaker that contains molten sodium chloride, then connect the wire between two electrodes and the battery. In electrolysis, the molten sodium chloride produced two types of ions, sodium positive ions and chlorine negative ions. Sodium positive ions attracted to the cathode and gain electron, okay? Because cathode covered with electron and they change into sodium atom, okay? This is process known as reduction. So, again, sodium positive ion by gaining one electron, it change into sodium atom, okay? So the equation occurred at cathode or cathodic reaction, sodium positive ion plus one electron reduced into sodium atom, okay? While chlorine ions attracted to anode, then at anode, chlorine negative ion lose electron and they change into chlorine atom, okay? And this is process known as oxidation, okay? So the equation will be chlorine negative ion oxidized by losing electrons and they change it into chlorine molecule Cl2. So from this example we have two processes, reduction process and oxidation process. Reduction means a process of gaining electrons or more during electrolysis, okay, and it occurred at cathode. While oxidation process means the process of losing electron or more during electrolysis and it occurred at anode, okay? So, in electrolysis of molten sodium chloride, we added calcium chloride and magnesium chloride as impurities. Why? To decrease the melting point from 800 degrees Celsius to 600 degrees Celsius. So, it decreased the cost of electrolysis and save more energy. The second example, electrolysis of molten lead bromide, okay? The formula of lead bromide, PbBr2, okay? What happened during electrolysis? The ions present, lead positive ions and bromine negative ions, okay? At anode, what happened at anode? The bromine negative ion oxidized by losing two electrons and they change into bromine element, okay? Where the two electrons go through the wire and reach to the cathode, where the lead reduced by gaining two electrons and changing into lead element, okay? So by using electricity, we can convert ions in molten salt into pure atoms of element by transferring electrons from negative ions to positive ions, okay? Thank you. Thank you, grade 11, for your good listening, and goodbye.